all those moments will be lost in time.
Guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about something very heavy. This is your last trigger warning. We are going to be talking about rape, so if that makes you uncomfortable, please click off right now. So back in 2016, a young 10-year-old girl had sex, aka was raped, by a 23-year-old man named, and I'm gonna butcher it, but I don't care because he's a criminal, Yusuf Mohammed Abudin. So, us logical, rational, moral, ethical people know that you cannot consent at 10 years old. So, it's not having sex, it's rape, it's abuse, it's taking advantage of a power dynamic. It's a whole series of things that we know it's wrong, okay? It's wrong. It shouldn't have to be a discussion. A 10-year-old doesn't understand what sex is in its entirety, like what can happen out of sex, the diseases, pregnancy, all the things that come from sex. A 10-year-old doesn't know, even if maybe they know the definition of sex. I think we can agree to that. They don't know all the implications. Anyways, it's crazy that I have to fucking explain why it's not okay. But welcome to 2018, my friends. So the initial ruling was that it's not rape, which I don't know how we got to this place that we are in the world, but for Finland to say that a 10-year-old girl having sex with a 23-year-old is not rape is mind-boggling. The district court and the appeal court charged the man with aggravated sexual abuse in a 3-year prison sentence in 2017, saying the girl wasn't forced into the act or overcome by fear. The girl wasn't forced into the act or overcome by fear. So if you do not know what you are saying yes or no to because you are in fact a child who hasn't even gone through puberty, how is it possible that you're saying yes and you're not forced into it? And force doesn't necessarily have to be force like physical force. There's the force of manipulation. There's the force of fear, that they're saying that she didn't have fear. And maybe she even says that she didn't have fear, but it's very difficult for me to believe that a young 10-year-old girl would have this relation with someone, a very traumatic experience, not even just mentally, but physically. And I don't want to get too graphic here, but a 10-year-old's body is small. So no matter how badly or well endowed this piece of shit criminal is, that is physically traumatic, just speaking proportionally. So the fact that there was no fear or pain or manipulation or any kind of foul play, let's say, to me does not sound realistic whatsoever. Yeah, I just don't really buy that. And I mean, I hope the girl has the least amount of trauma possible, but it seems inevitable that some trauma would come out of this. Am I crazy for thinking that? I feel crazier every day. Maybe because a bitch is crazy. What I think is most interesting about this case, and I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but before we get to that, let me just read one more thing. In these articles, what they're claiming is that Finland's laws have been so revised that they're almost too abstract, and it's hard to get a conviction because they're harder to interpret because there is no black and white. And sometimes you do need to have black and white, like don't murder people, don't rape people. These are things that should be black and white, but apparently the laws have these kind of loopholes where people like this fucker can just get away with it, I suppose. So yeah, a professor of criminal law at the University of Turku and Matti Tolvanen, a professor of criminal law at the University of Eastern Finland, estimate in an interview with the newspaper that the case could ultimately warrant the attention of the Supreme Court of Finland. Both of them indicated that the criminal code fails to unambiguously define the grounds for determining that the victim was in a state of fear or other state of helplessness. The Supreme Court should set precedent on whether or not a 10-year-old can be ruled to be able to express their will in circumstances such as these. I'm personally of the opinion that a 10-year-old would be unable to understand the matter and thereby defend themselves against an adult, comments Tolvanen. Okay, so what's crazy to me is that helplessness and fear are kind of core grounds for determining whether someone was raped or not. And while I do think that helplessness and fear have a lot to do with rape, it seems silly to me that in a case like this one, like if they were both adults, it would be a different situation. But in a case like this one, where one person is 13 years younger and not adult yet, for there to be a question on whether it is in fact rape it seems so obvious, and yet it's become this complicated kind of thing where you have to assess a qualitative thing like helplessness and fear. Let's get to my conspiracy theory. Sorry, I had to slip in some kind of ASMR thing because this mic is just too good. Anyways, my conspiracy theory. So, we know that Yusuf, whatever, is a migrant, okay? We know that the world is overcome with political correctness and fear of being called a racist. I think that that's something that is going on a little bit everywhere, at least in the Western world. I think something similar is happening here to what happened with the Telford sex gang. So with the Telford sex gang, one of the police officers, or even multiple of them, claimed that they were afraid to be called racist because the ringleaders of that sex trafficking gang of young girls were, I think they were Muslim, or at least they were immigrants from a Middle Eastern country, I'm pretty sure. So I think something like that is happening here, because I don't understand what difficulty there would be to give a very harsh ruling, a deserved ruling, by the way. And I think that the PC kind of world is edging its way in and is part of what's stopping a harsher ruling on this person, because of the fear of being called racist. Although it would be ridiculous to call someone racist for putting a rapist in prison for like 20 years, but you know, I digress. I'm not claiming that this is the only reason why this guy didn't go to jail or whatever. I just think that it is a factor that needs to be considered, and it's the first thing I thought of when I was reading this. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this. I know that it's a very delicate topic, and it's just really sad to see that people are getting away with shit like this, especially if there's a precedent set in Finland. This could open the door to so many more horrific cases where people get away with it. My disappointment is disappointed. Feels like it's not even enough for this one. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's get right into the fan art.